Chapter 1. Alex Rivera stood in the heart of the Vanguard Orbital Station's engineering bay. His fingers sliced through the air to manipulate a sprawling holographic schematic. The model of a new deep space habitat rotated slowly before him, its carbon fiber ribs glowing with simulated stress data. He narrowed his eyes, tapped a weak joint, and watched as the system recalculated the load paths in real time. A small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth as the numbers stabilized. The station's alert system chimed, sharp and insistent. "Attention all senior staff, urgent transmission from the Venerables. Report immediately to the observation dome." Alex dropped his hands. The hologram froze in place. He moved with purpose through the curved corridors, his boots echoing against the polished deck plates. Crew members stepped aside as he passed, their faces reflecting a mix of curiosity and unease. The observation dome offered one of the most breathtaking views in human space. Earth curving blue and white below, the endless star field beyond. He arrived to find the dome already filling with key personnel. Director Sophia Kane stood near the central platform, her arms crossed tightly. Beside her, Chief Engineer Theo Grant rubbed his chin, brows furrowed in thought. Alex took a position near the front. The massive holographic projector activated with a low hum. Light coalesced into the towering figure of Sage Valen. The Venerable appeared ancient and unhurried, his form a weathered stone etched with faint, glowing veins. He stood nearly 10 feet tall, his movements deliberate as each shift required contemplation of eternity. His eyes, deep-set and luminous, regarded the gathered humans with patience that spanned ages. "People of Earth," Valen began, his voice rolling out deep and measured, each syllable formed with meticulous care. "We have observed your kind for many cycles. You move as hurried insects frantic in your haste, building what crumbles before the next dawn. A culture's legitimacy hinges on its foundation of unyielding durability and a perspective spanning millennia." The dome fell silent. Valen continued, lifting one massive hand. A set of schematics materialized beside him, intricate and vast. The framework for a Dyson Sphere, a structure to encircle a star and harvest its full energy output. "We offer you these designs, the culmination of our long wisdom, constructed, if you will. We expect the attempt to reveal much about your limitations." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Director Kane stepped forward. "Sage Valen, this is an extraordinary gift, but the scale, the resources—" Alex did not wait. He straightened his posture, shoulders squared, eyes intense and locked on the projection. He walked to the center of the platform, standing directly before the alien sage. "We appreciate the plans," Alex said, his voice clear and direct. "But do not mistake our celerity for weakness. Humanity excels at facing the immediate challenge. Where you build in layers over millennia, we iterate rapidly, learning from every misstep. Give us this chance, and we will show you what focused determination can achieve in far less time." Chief Grant leaned in. "Rivera, this is not some prototype habitat. It is a megastructure around a star. Feasibility studies alone could take years. Years we do not need to waste," Alex replied, turning to face his superiors. He gestured to the holographic Dyson plans now shared in their system. "Our rapid iteration methods have already revolutionized orbital construction. We build thousands of small prototypes at once, test them in parallel and scale what works. Carbon nanotube meshes deployed by drone swarms can form the initial collectors faster than any layered approach." Director Kane studied him, her expression cautious. "And if it fails spectacularly? The Venerables are watching." "Then we fail forward," Alex countered, conviction clear in his steady stance. "Each failure feeds the next success. That is how we progress. Sage Valen expects us to fumble because he sees only our haste. But that haste, paired with ingenuity, is our greatest strength." Valen observed the exchange without interruption, his stone-like face impassive yet attentive. Theo Grant exchanged a glance with the director, then nodded slowly. "The young man has a point about our track record with the solar sail prototypes. They adapted mid-deployment in ways our models could not predict." Alex pressed the advantage, his hands moving expressively as he spoke. "Let my team lead this. We have the drive, the tools, and the will. This project will not only secure humanity's energy future, it will prove our worth on a cosmic scale." The room held its breath. Director Kane looked from Alex to the towering Venerable, then back. After a long moment, she gave a decisive nod. Very well, Alex. Assemble your team. You have authorization to begin planning immediately. Alex stood tall, resolve firm across his face as he addressed both the humans and the alien observer. We accept the challenge. This will prove our worth. Sage Valen inclined his head ever so slightly, the gesture taking several seconds. We shall observe with great interest. The transmission ended, leaving the dome humming with new energy. Alex gazed out at the stars beyond the transparent dome. The real work was about to begin. Chapter 2. Alex Rivera entered the main engineering bay of the Vanguard orbital station. Bright overhead lights cast sharp shadows across rows of workstations and the central holotable. He activated the summons panel with a firm tap, then waited as the core team converged from every direction. Priya Singh reached the table first. She slid a fresh carbon nanotube sample into its analyzer slot, her movements quick and precise before looking up with focused eyes. Theo Grant arrived next, the veteran engineer folding his arms as he studied the newly shared Dyson Sphere schematics. Two other specialists, Dr. Maria Torres and engineer Diego Ruiz, completed the circle. Listen up, Alex said, his voice steady and direct as he expanded the projection across the table. Director Kane gave us the go-ahead. The Venerables delivered the plans, and our team leads the build. Theo Grant shook his head slowly. A Dyson Sphere, Alex. The Venerables construct these with patient layering over centuries, each sheet cured to perfection before the next. We should adopt their method. Anything rushed will collapse under stellar forces. Murmurs rose from the veterans. Dr. Torres tapped her stylus against the table edge in clear agreement. Alex planted both palms on the holotable and met their eyes one by one. I hear the concern, but matching their patience would trap us in the same timeline. My drive for this traces back to Dr. Maria Santos, my mentor. She spent 30 years designing orbital energy systems, always one step ahead of the hardware. She told us stories of the early array failures, how each tear in the fabric taught a better weave. She never saw her vision of boundless energy realized. She passed 2 years ago, but her words still guide every decision I make. The bay quieted. Priya nodded once, her expression sharpening with recognition. Exactly, Alex continued, pulling up an archived image of Santos beside a prototype sail. She said true progress comes from testing fast and adapting faster. This project finishes what she began. Priya leaned in, her fingers already tracing mesh patterns in the hologram. So we are going to outrun eternity itself? The Venerables wait for mountains to form. We launch the storm. Laughter rippled across the group. Theo Grant allowed a reluctant half-smile. Precisely, Alex replied, his shoulders squaring with fresh energy. We commit to rapid iteration, thousands of prototypes built simultaneously in parallel fabrication modules. Failures feed the next round within hours. Theo Grant rubbed his chin. And the materials? High-strength carbon nanotube meshes, Priya answered without hesitation. She summoned a detailed weave simulation that shimmered and flexed under virtual solar pressure. Woven flexible, not rigid plates, deployed by swarms of automated drones that adjust shape in real time to optimize capture. Diego Ruiz jumped in. The swarm algorithms can learn from each test run. Coordination improves with every cycle. Back and forth the ideas flew. Theo Grant challenged the mesh durability under flare conditions. Priya countered with stress test data she called up instantly. Alex fielded questions on scaling, redirecting each doubt into a specific protocol adjustment. Dr. Torres proposed tighter feedback loops, and the table erupted in nods. After 40 minutes of continuous exchange, Theo Grant straightened. You have convinced me, Rivera. Rapid iteration with the nanotube meshes and drone swarms. We do this our way. Alex activated the full simulation suite. Then we begin, load the Venerable schematics as baseline, run 1,000 prototype variations in parallel now. The holotable flared to life. Digital models bloomed across every display, each mesh unfurling, flapping, and adapting under simulated starlight. Green indicators lit up as viable configurations stabilized. Red flashes marked failures, but those same flashes triggered instant refinements that the team applied on the spot. Priya pumped her fist as the first optimized sail held steady for a full cycle. Theo Grant leaned closer, his posture shifting from crossed arms to active engagement. Diego Ruiz and Dr. Torres exchanged quick high fives while data streamed across their screens. Alex stood at the center and watched the simulations accelerate. The bay hummed with coordinated motion, voices overlapping in excited updates, hands gesturing through fresh schematics. Doubts had not disappeared entirely, yet a clear shared resolve now bound the group together. They were no longer following an ancient blueprint. They were forging their own path, and the first sparks of that creation already crackled in the air around them. Chapter 3. Chaos reigned across the engineering bays of the Vanguard orbital station. In 6 parallel fabrication modules, construction of prototype solar meshes surged forward at full throttle. Robotic arms spun carbon nanotube threads into expansive sheets, while test drones buzzed in their holding patterns. Holographic displays pulsed with thousands of data points updating every second. Alex Rivera strode from module to module, his gaze sharp as he took in each unfolding test. In Module 1, the first major deployment started strong. The mesh unfurled in a smooth wave and caught the simulated starlight. Then the edges erupted into chaos. Fibers frayed and snapped, whipping wildly as the entire structure disintegrated. "Shut it down," Alex commanded, lunging for the override controls. He killed the power to the drones, and the shredded remnants floated to a halt. He turned to the crestfallen technicians. "We just learned exactly where the weak points hide. Next version will be stronger for it." Across the bay in Module 3, disaster struck differently. The drone swarm lost cohesion. Drones veered into one another, tangling the delicate nanotube mesh into a hopeless snarl. Alex arrived at a jog and immediately joined the crew in diagnosing the collision logs on the main terminal. Priya Singh commanded the central analysis station. Failure data streamed across her screens. "The weave needs more elasticity at the joints," she declared. Her hands flew as she adjusted the molecular pattern and transmitted fresh instructions to all teams. Alex kept circulating, stopping to offer direct encouragement or quick fixes. He pointed out a misaligned thruster on one drone group, then clapped a young engineer on the back after a particularly messy collapse. Again, we get better every time it breaks. Test after test produced spectacular failures. Bright flashes marked overloaded sections. Warning sirens blared and fell silent. Each time Priya pored over the wreckage in digital form, her refinements coming faster and smarter. Finally, in Module 4, everything aligned. The drone swarm released a compact test mesh. It expanded smoothly, its surface rippling and adjusting in real time as the stress simulators ramped up. The structure held firm. It flexed under mounting pressure yet returned to perfect form without a single tear. Cheers exploded throughout the interconnected bays. Technicians raised their arms in victory while others exchanged excited shouts. Priya burst into Module 4, a triumphant smile lighting her face. 140% of target stress, and still stable. Alex stepped in front of the glowing intact mesh. He planted his feet wide and addressed the gathered crew, his voice ringing with conviction. "Every failure we survived today sharpened our edge. Those errors are not setbacks. They are the fuel that lets us move at impossible speed." The team pressed closer, their energy electric. Even Theo Grant, watching from the upper level, gave a firm nod of approval. Alex stood tall amid the celebration as the entire station hummed with their collective momentum. Chapter 4. The launch bay of the Vanguard orbital station thrummed with controlled energy. Alex Rivera stood at the primary command console, his fingers hovering over the master ignition sequence. Priya Singh worked beside him at the secondary interface, her eyes locked on the swarm telemetry readouts. Around them, the rest of the team monitored their stations in tense silence. "Swarm is green across all sectors," Alex announced, initiating launch. He pressed the command. The external cameras fed live feeds to every screen in the bay. Hundreds of construction drones detached from their docking cradles and accelerated away from the station in perfect formation. Their navigation lights painted streaks of blue and gold against the black void, a moving constellation that stretched toward the distant glare of the sun. The display held the entire room captivated as the fleet dwindled into a single shimmering ribbon of light. Deployment window opened exactly on schedule. The lead drones reached the designated solar vicinity and began their synchronized release. The first carbon nanotube mesh extended smoothly, its flexible weave catching the raw sunlight and rippling with controlled precision. Energy readings climbed steadily on Priya's display. Initial expansion at 98% efficiency, she reported, a note of satisfaction in her voice, matching our best simulation. Then the first hitch struck. Sector 7 flashed red. Swarm cohesion dropped as 3 drones drifted out of alignment, their thrusters firing at mismatched intervals. The mesh edge in that quadrant began to twist. Cohesion failure, Priya called out, her hands already flying across her interface, compensating with override protocols. Alex leaned in closer to his own panel, redirecting adjacent units to stabilize. Feed me the vector corrections. Their voices overlapped in rapid succession while the rest of the team fed supporting data. Thruster Group 9 is lagging, Priya said, tension sharpening her words. If we lose another 5%, the whole section collapses. We will not lose it, Alex replied, his posture locked in concentration as he executed the adjustment. Trust the learning algorithms. Push the recalibration through now. Priya shot him a quick glance, her expression tight but steady with shared resolve. Recalibrating. You always say the swarm learns faster than we do. Prove it. The drones responded. The drifting units corrected course in a ripple of coordinated burns. The twisted mesh edge smoothed out, though warning indicators still pulsed along the perimeter. Another hitch followed seconds later in Sector 12. A cluster of drones reported orientation drift, threatening to tangle the expanding weave. Alex and Priya worked in tight coordination, their commands trading back and forth without pause. Realigning rotation axis, Alex directed. Priya, boost the tension feedback on the nanotube links. Boosting now, she answered. Hold the center steady. I see the pattern. We are one adjustment away. Sweat beaded on Alex's forehead, yet his hands remained sure on the controls. Priya's fingers danced across the holographic sliders with practiced speed. The team around them held their collective breath, updating status reports in crisp bursts. The corrections took hold. The full, expansive mesh released from the remaining drones and unfurled outward in a vast, dynamic sheet. Its surface shifted and adapted in real time, edges flexing to capture the maximum photon stream. Bright indicators surged across every monitor as initial energy harvest began. Power readings climbed well beyond the venerable baseline projections, the flexible structure turning stellar output into steady, directed beams. Priya exhaled sharply and allowed a fierce grin to break across her face. We are capturing photons at 127% of their expected rate. The Venerables never accounted for real-time adaptive microstructure. Alex stepped back from the console just enough to survey the live feed. The mesh hung there in the solar vicinity, a colossal adaptive sail alive with captured light. He turned to Priya, his shoulders easing with the first wave of relief. Your weave adjustments made the difference. We trusted the process, and it delivered. She nodded once, eyes still bright on the displays. And your swarm commands kept us from unraveling. This is only the beginning. Cheers erupted across the bay as the team absorbed the success. The first expansive mesh continued its flawless performance, streaming energy back toward the station in a visible triumph of human speed against ancient expectations. Alex and Priya stood shoulder to shoulder at the center of it all, the tension of the moment giving way to a deeper bond of proven trust. The swarm had taken flight, and the stars themselves now answered to their cadence. Chapter 5. Alarms shattered the calm across the Vanguard orbital station. Red warning lights strobed along every console as the solar monitoring array lit up with impossible readings. An unexpected flare erupted from the star's surface, a massive coronal mass ejection hurtling straight toward the swarm. Priya Singh slammed her fist on the mute button for the general alert. Flare impact in 40 seconds. Energy spike off the charts. Alex Rivera stared at the live feed. The vast adaptive mesh still rippled in the sunlight, but now the leading edge buckled under the sudden radiation surge. Drones spun out of formation. Critical sections of the forming structure flashed red as nanotube links overloaded and snapped. Full shutdown on non-essential relays, Alex ordered, his voice cutting through the rising chaos. We lose the whole sail if that relay drone fails. The key relay drone, positioned at the structure's center, reported cascading system errors. Without it, the swarm could not coordinate its self-corrections. The mesh began to tear along multiple seams, photon streams scattering wildly. Priya's hands moved in a blur across her interface. I am rerouting what I can from here, but the radiation is frying the remote links. We need manual intervention. Alex was already moving. He crossed the bay in 3 strides and yanked open the EVA suit locker. I am going out. Prep the airlock for immediate egress. Priya glanced up, her face set in determination. Alex, the flare is still peaking. Radiation levels are lethal. Which is why it has to be now, he replied as he sealed the suit's helmet with a decisive click. You handle the team. Keep the remaining drones stable. I will reach that relay. He cycled through the airlock and pushed into open space. The station fell away behind him as his suit jets fired. Ahead, the swarm appeared as a storm of tumbling lights against the star's furious glare. Debris from the damaged mesh streaked past like shrapnel, pinging off his suit with sharp metallic sounds. Radiation warnings ticked upward in his helmet display, but he kept his breathing even and his trajectory locked. Priya's voice came crisp over the comms. Alex, you are clear of the station. Adjust 2 degrees starboard to avoid that debris cluster. Adjusting now, he answered, his gloved hands steady on the controls. How is the mesh holding? Barely. Sector 9 is collapsing. I have the team boosting power to the intact sections, but we need that relay back online in the next 90 seconds, or we lose everything. Another chunk of twisted nanotube whipped past, forcing Alex into a sharp, evasive burn. His suit shuddered. I see it, trust me, Priya. I am almost there. You have this from the inside? Just keep talking me in. I always do, she said, a thread of reassurance cutting through the urgency. Remember what you told the crew in the forge. Every failure sharpens us. This one will too. 30 feet to the relay drone. Watch the port side thruster array. It is venting. Alex reached the drone and grabbed its frame with both hands. Heat bled through his gloves from the overloaded systems. He popped the access panel and began the manual recalibration, fingers working the physical overrides while debris continued to pepper his suit. Recalibrating core alignment, he reported, voice calm despite the rising radiation alarm. Feeding the new parameters now. Priya's tone steadied him. Good. The swarm is responding to the first corrections. Hold steady, Alex. You are not doing this alone. We are right here with you. The drone hummed back to life under his hands. Its lights shifted from erratic red to steady green. Across the swarm, drones realigned in a visible wave. The torn sections of the mesh began to draw together. The flexible weave adapting once more through the learned algorithms. Photon capture stabilized, then surged. Full coherence restored, Priya announced. Relief breaking through. The structure is holding. Swarm self-correction is accelerating. You did it. Alex released the drone and fired his jets for the return burn. His suit's radiation shield glowed faintly from the exposure, but his grip on the controls remained firm. We did it. Your coordination from the station gave me the window I needed. Back inside the airlock, he stripped off the helmet and met Priya at the inner hatch. She gripped his shoulder, her eyes bright with shared triumph. The team crowded around, voices rising in excited updates as the displays confirmed the sail's full recovery. Alex stood tall among them, the weight of the ordeal settling into a deeper resolve. He had charged ahead into the storm, yet the success came from the balance they had forged together, haste guided by resilience and every risk turned into strength. The swarm now pulsed steadily against the star's lingering fury, a testament to human speed tempered by unyielding adaptation. His leadership felt solid in a way it never had before, and the path forward gleamed brighter than ever. Chapter 6. The engineering bay of the Vanguard orbital station pulsed with renewed focus. Alex Rivera stood at the central holotable eyes fixed on the live feed from the solar vicinity. The vast flapping membrane had survived the flare intact. Now it began to expand with deliberate grace, its carbon nanotube surface rippling like a living banner under the star's relentless glare. Priya Singh leaned forward beside him, her fingers tracing adjustment curves on the display. Expansion at full rate. The weave is morphing in real time, shifting curvature to chase every photon surge. Data streams accelerated across every screen. Energy harvest readings climbed steadily, then surged past every simulation benchmark. The membrane stretched wider with each passing minute, its edges flexing and folding in precise waves that optimized capture on the fly. Continuous iterations ran in the background, the swarm's algorithms refining the shape thousands of times per second. Theo Grant crossed his arms and let out a low whistle. Look at that. 160% of venerable projections already, and still climbing. Diego Ruiz punched the air from his station. We are not just matching their ancient blueprint, we're rewriting it mid-flight. The team gathered closer, their faces illuminated by the glowing feed. The sail's dynamic beauty filled the bay, a colossal shimmering veil that danced against the star's corona, its surface alive with shifting patterns of captured light. Where rigid plates would have cracked under the pressure, this flexible membrane flowed and adapted, turning raw stellar fury into ordered streams of usable power. Bright blue beams lanced back toward the station, tight and steady, carrying the transformed energy across the void. Each beam pulsed with the rhythm of the sail's adjustments, a visible heartbeat of human ingenuity. Priya glanced at Alex, her eyes sparkling with triumph. Remember when they called us hurried insects? This insect just taught the star a new dance. Alex allowed a broad grin to break across his face. He kept one hand on the console, steadying the incoming power metrics. And it is only getting faster. The iterations are learning from every ripple. We built something that improves itself faster than we can watch. Dr. Maria Torres pointed to the central display where a fresh wave of optimization swept across the membrane. Another 10% gain in the last cycle alone. The Venerables planned for perfection in stone. We gave them adaptation in motion. Laughter and proud shouts echoed through the bay. Theo Grant clapped Diego on the shoulder. Surpassing ancient expectations? We left them in the dust before they finished their first layer. Alex watched the sail continue its elegant expansion, the power beams thickening into solid rivers of light. The entire structure now outperformed every model they had run, a testament to the swarm's relentless learning and the team's refusal to wait. He felt the weight of the moment settle into quiet pride across his shoulders. Humanity had not merely accepted the challenge, they had redefined it. Priya nudged him lightly. Your rapid iteration just outran eternity, Alex. And the best part, we are still accelerating. The bay hummed with shared energy as the adaptive veil grew ever larger, its flapping form a brilliant banner against the stars. Power streamed homeward in an unbroken triumph of speed, error, and unyielding human resolve. The team stood united, eyes bright and voices rising, ready for whatever came next. Chapter 7. The observation dome glowed with soft ambient light as the entire senior team gathered once more. Beyond the transparent walls, the colossal adaptive sail shimmered against the star, its vast membrane still expanding and rippling with captured energy. Thick beams of harvested power streamed steadily back toward human space. Alex Rivera stood near the front, arms at his sides, when the holographic projector hummed to life. Sage Valen materialized in the center of the dome. The ancient venerable appeared even more monumental than before, yet something had shifted. His stone-like form held a deeper stillness, and when he spoke his glacial cadence carried long pauses heavy with meaning. People of Earth, Valen began. Each word emerged slowly. We watched your swarm launch. We observed the flare strike your creation. Now we see the veil you have woven. In mere moments you achieved what we anticipated would require eons. A profound silence followed his words. The Venerable's luminous eyes regarded Alex directly. Alex stepped forward, his posture straight and respectful. He met the ancient gaze without flinching. Sage Valen, our path was not one of flawless stone. We moved fast because we allowed ourselves to fail, again and again. Each mistake became a teacher that accelerated our discovery. That is the gift of human speed. We would be honored to share this approach with your people. Perhaps together we can build even greater wonders, combining your patience with our velocity. Valen remained motionless for a long time. When he finally spoke, his deep voice resonated with quiet wonder. Your kind possesses a rare and powerful gift, the capacity for the impossible. Where we craft perfection through endless time, you forge breakthroughs through relentless adaptation. We see now the strength we once dismissed. We accept your offer of collaboration with open minds. Alex's eyes brightened as a vision took shape in his expression. He turned slightly toward the glowing sail visible outside, then back to the Venerable. In that moment he saw the future clearly. ancient wisdom and human ingenuity woven together into something unprecedented. The transmission ended with Valen offering a slow, deliberate bow. Cheers and heartfelt applause filled the dome. Priya Singh moved to stand beside Alex, her face alight. Theo Grant, Dr. Torres, Diego Ruiz, and the rest of the team gathered around them in a tight circle. Alex looked out at the brilliant adaptive veil and the endless star field beyond. The team stood united shoulder to shoulder, their reflections faint against the glass. They had faced doubt, survived fire, and rewritten expectations in record time. A deep sense of pride settled over the group as they gazed outward together. The stars seemed closer now, full of fresh possibilities. Humanity had proven its worth, not by matching the Venerables' pace, but by daring to move at the speed of dreams, and in that daring, a new era had begun. Epilogue. Alex Rivera directed the swarm from an expanded command deck, his once impulsive strides now measured with hard-won patience. Fresh solar flares battered the expanding mesh on 3 separate occasions. Entire sections tore away in silent explosions of light and debris. Drone formations collapsed under unexpected magnetic storms. Each time, the team launched hundreds more prototypes in parallel, analyzed the wreckage within hours, and wove the lessons back into the living structure. Priya Singh refined the nanotube lattice on the fly. Theo Grant coordinated rescue swarms that reclaimed drifting fragments. Failures no longer slowed them, they accelerated the work. One clear morning in the station's observation dome, the final gap closed. The adaptive membrane met its own edge in a perfect self-sealing ring. The completed veil encircled the star in a shimmering sphere of flexible carbon weave. Its surface rippled continuously, adjusting to every solar pulse and drawing in the full output of the star. Thick rivers of harvested energy streamed outward along focused beams toward Earth, the Moon, Mars colonies, and the new habitats rising in the asteroid belt. The station's displays glowed solid green power metrics, climbed to levels once considered theoretical. Alex stood at the dome's center with the full team beside him. Priya rested one hand lightly on the console, while she watched the energy beams lance across the solar system, like steady arteries of light. Theo Grant allowed himself a rare, wide smile and clapped Diego Ruiz on the back. Dr. Torres recorded the moment on a personal slate, her fingers steady despite the emotion visible in her squared shoulders. On Earth, the transformation unfolded everywhere at once. Cities that had rationed power now blazed with uninterrupted light. Desalination plants turned oceans into fresh water for arid regions. Orbital elevators rose from equatorial anchors, carrying materials skyward at speeds that made interplanetary travel routine. New fusion-augmented drives propelled exploratory ships toward the outer planets and beyond. Children in schoolyards looked up at the night sky and saw not distant pinpricks but a reliable sun that humanity had gently harnessed. Scarcity faded from daily conversation. Innovation surged as engineers and artists alike gained the energy to dream at full scale. The respect of the Venerables arrived first as a quiet transmission from Sage Valen himself. He appeared in the dome without announcement, his stone form framed by the completed sphere behind him. "Your veil stands where we expected only ruins," he said, each word still deliberate yet now warmed by genuine admiration. "We offer our archives of 10,000-year engineering. In return, we ask to learn your speed of adaptation." Alex stepped forward, his posture open and confident. "We accept. Together we will build structures that combine stone patience with living iteration." Other galactic races followed. The crystalline chorus of Altair sent emissaries who studied the swarm algorithms with quiet fascination. The swift-winged nomads of the Veil Nebula proposed joint expeditions to uncharted systems, their sleek ships docking alongside human vessels in a display of shared docking lights. Humanity no longer stood apart as the frantic newcomers. They sat at the galactic table as equals who had proven their unique gift. Alex returned to Earth for the first time in years and walked the broad plazas of the newly renamed Rivera Commons in Mexico City. Solar beams from the distant sphere lit the fountains with steady golden light. Priya walked beside him, pointing out a group of students sketching designs for the next collaborative megastructure. He watched them with quiet satisfaction, shoulders relaxed, the lines around his eyes softened by accomplishment. The completed Dyson Sphere turned above them all, a visible testament to what rapid iteration and collective courage could achieve. Failures had paved the way. Ancient wisdom now flowed alongside human velocity. Energy poured freely across the solar system, powering a future of exploration and unity. Humanity stood taller, not because it had challenged the stars, but because it had dared to weave its own light into them. The stars waited, closer than ever, and the next chapter of daring had only just begun.